Let's talk about Easter event. I know, surprising, I'm sort of surprised too, but it makes sense to talk about it in the beginning for a multitude of reasons we'll get into. Outside of April Fool's events getting cancelled, Easter event's revival was highly anticipated. For a while we only had two types of serious events, and many people have been asking to bring back Thanksgiving, Easter events, and maybe some others. During 2024 it was even announced that events are no longer going to be a priority in the development, so it is surprising to see the rise of them once again. As long as it doesn't take too much developers' time for permanent content, I am all for it. Well, the event kind of fumbled. I originally was supposed to make a video about the Easter event, discussing its pros and cons, and don't get me wrong, the content is amazing, the lobby and atmosphere are also picturesque. The delivery though. Part 2 never had a fixed release date, but I think everyone expected it to release in 2 weeks max, considering the event only should have lasted a month. In reality, only half of the second part released 8 days after the deadline. We could for sure discuss what caused such huge delay, but it doesn't matter when the outcome is the same and pretty tragic. Nobody gives a fuck about it. The excitement, momentum and hype was lost, and we could get much more discussion about the new tower if the second part released in time, even without the second planned steeple, because players would still be excited about something in the second part. Anyways, this whole event delay made me think more about EToH itself. Usually when an update gets cancelled or delayed, as a part of my ultimate coping mechanism, I try to find any future content to be excited about or any recently released content. I feel like that is what most people do when trying to stay engaged in the game they like. When Christmas event 2022 was cancelled, I was excited about the secret thing that could release in 48 hours, that was Lost River. When the second part of Christmas event of 2024 was cancelled due to someone, I was also excited about Zone 10 and overall future of EToH, as this was the very start of a new era. 2025 was overall a great, if not the greatest year of EToH, with many wonderful areas, revisits of old content, and the whole game and building kit rescript. So what permanent area updates have there been in 2026? It's been already 5 months, huh? So... Steel Spy Horizon, yeah. Arcane Area revamp. Timeless Nexus. Oh wait, that's it. Now, I totally get what you're thinking right now, because at the first glance it sounds like we're actually getting a lot. 3 lobbies, no wait, 4 lobbies in 5 months, what an actual miracle! In fact, all 4 lobbies look absolutely astonishing, so it would be very disrespectful to say the developers are slacking off. But let's talk about the content most of the EToH audience cares the most as consumers, because while lobbies is a crucial and integral part of EToH's ecosystem, they are far from the main reason people play this game for. Yeah, the reason is towers. The reason I said permanent area updates is not because I hate the events or other reasons, but because any temporary content is not made to build the game's progression tree further, but to keep the audience engaged while the permanent content is being worked on. I will talk in depth about that later in the video, but for now we're left with 3 permanent area updates, one of which stores non-canon content, the other one being an alt area revision, and lastly an actual canon area. Don't get me wrong, all 3 are important in their own ways, but when it comes to new content consumption, there's a clear winner between 3. It's pretty obvious that people will be more excited about something that will get their tower's number rise up, if that makes sense. And as I said, the other releases are also really important. Arcane Area revamp is a revision of an area that fucking sucked, with 4 whopping steeples getting fully revamped, and Timeless Nexus stores monthly towers, which is... passable? It also has a mini tower, and it's like the only reason why people play Timeless areas, but they should be sort of mixed with way more important areas such as subrealms or Mainline areas. And I think it's a perfect time to discuss areas that are coming soon. At the current moment, there are 3 area updates that are publicly being in development. Ring 9 revamp, Ring 5 revamp, and most importantly, Dark Side of the Moon, all projected to come out in the 3rd quarter. It's not that big of a deal until you realize there hasn't been any public teasers on Dark Side of the Moon, and towers started being inserted like last week, so we'll have to wait a lot. The reason why I'm even making this video in the first place is because I managed to join tower development channel at the correct time when Snack, an EToH developer, was talking about future area releases. The discussion specifically was about mainline area releases, which have to stop for a while because the only one that is left in first 2 worlds is World 2 Finale, and we all know it's gonna take long. And reasonably so. It has already been revealed World 2 Finale will have 3 separate places, 2 of them for towers and 1 for the obelisk, which I'm pretty sure is what delays World 2 Finale to at least 2027, if not 2028. That raises the question though, what are we left with? Subrealms, events, yeah, basically that. I think I have to mention that I personally see practically no difference in excitement between regular mainline areas and subrealms. I didn't see it being the case for most people, as even statistically towers from subrealms are way less remembered, but as long as there is near equal amount of content to play in any area, I really see no problem. But what I do have a problem with is that we're not certain about what subrealms are there to come. We haven't heard a single word from developers about any potential subrealms after Dark Side of the Moon, and we can't be certain that there will be any at all, because there haven't been any hints on any potential subrealms as well as these were from Gamator. Yeah, they were from a year ago, but the first point I made matches up pretty well even with the situation today. With events, there are also more problems because, correct, they're not permanent. They only last for a month in perfect conditions, don't give any points for progression, and only consist of 3 to 5 towers. In the vacuum, not necessarily a bad thing, but it does get annoying when events are the only major content released in a row. And it doesn't help that the only public progress events get is one teaser with a release date. Seriously, that's literally it. Trello became a really important thing for players to get progress updates on newest releases, QL changes, etc. For example, area releases and lobby revamps have the tick for every part of the lobby and covers bug-tastic progress. Not every piece of information has to be public, I agree. The developer projects such as Obelisk and Biotech Genesis are exciting because their progress is hidden. Same goes for the events, even though I don't really like that, I do tolerate the decision. Except, when the only confirmed new content projects in this foreseeable future are events, it may cause problems due to the lack of information about overall development behind the scenes. So, the new subrealms may cease to exist, the events are not enough to sustain the game for this long alone. Wait, World 3! It was announced that the first era would release this September actually, but it was indefinitely delayed shortly after. No one can confirm when, but in the same conversation it was revealed that World 3 will start in development alongside World 2 Finale, which has a possibility of being released in 2028. Yeah, I know it also says 2027, but the mention of the second year already logistically eliminates the possibility of it releasing in the first half of 2027, so there is still a long wait. Please keep in mind that even though all these messages were coming from a developer, I wouldn't consider them 100% factual and correct, even if coming from a credible source, because there's a difference between a formal announcement and a random Discord message. But based on the information we got, here's the current timeline of EToH major updates. Do you see what I mean now? Long wait between area releases with events being a replacement for them is not healthy for the game and can make late game players lose interest. I still want to remind to these people who are going to say in my comments, why are you deliberately ignoring lobby revamps, timeless areas, some other cool looking shit? It's because for the majority of players, these updates don't impact their progress and playthrough. These updates are important, they improve the game and push it into the right direction. In case of lobby revamps, they heavily improve the experience for the beginners, but they're not updates that can get the majority of players to get hooked back into the game for new towers, because usually these updates don't have any towers or only have one. Ring 9 revamp has some pretty good progress and has all chances to release this June. I'm actually extremely excited about it, and I believe most players are too, but how do you think will the release go? Players join the revamp, explore it, some may replace some older towers, and that's it. There isn't much to do other than look at the lobby the developers have made and appreciate their work, which realistically shouldn't require that much more, I'll explain in a bit, but once again, in the context of canon areas releasing with such large time between each other, you'd probably want some more content to keep the player entertained. And this is a good transition to my suggestions and feedback on how I would personally fix this situation as a regular community peasant. So remember that my opinions may suck, and I want you to write your own solutions in the comments so we can discuss them and maybe agree on some new solutions after you listen to mine. Also, these solutions won't include something like just release more areas, because that's the equivalent of suggesting a homeless guy to just buy a home. Rework the events. What do I mean by that? In my opinion, the events could benefit from being more entertaining and long-lasting. Remember the Halloween modifiers and Christmas team battles during years 2021 and 2022? They fucking sucked, but they could be built upon. It can really be anything. I don't have any set in stone ideas, but in my last video about monthly challenges, I was talking about questline challenges that were popular in the first 2 years of monthlies and just kinda dipped. They have to make a comeback. They were fun. Going around areas and completing festive related quests would be pretty entertaining. Would also be cool seeing additional events challenges just like monthlies work. Now for the second part of this suggestion, I haven't seen anyone really talk about this and I assume it will be very controversial, but hear me out. What if we just get rid of event lobbies? Like, altogether? Why the hell would it be a good idea? Mostly because they're practically worthless. While the event lobbies don't take as much time as lobbies for main areas, the development force could be switched to them instead, because most of the time event lobbies are being praised, rightfully so by the way, but are being forgotten about after the event is over, usually even after player beats all the content. You can say it can be said too about permanent areas, but well, they're permanent at least. Anyways, the event towers would go instead to the main areas for more entertainment. They could be tied to the quest lines I mentioned earlier. That would make players revisit areas they haven't been in a while. And also some of these tower style could be adapted to the areas they're in. Classic event towers is probably not something many people ask for, but it would for sure be a refreshment and a nice experiment, I feel like. More towers. I am definitely not the only person who wants more towers in World 1. While it doesn't feel empty, World 2 and any recent releases spoiled me with the standard 15 towers per area, if not more. World 1 has only 12 towers in at least 3 rings. It would be, in my opinion, a pretty smart decision to just start adding more towers to World 1. My suggestion is at least 2 more towers in rings from 2 to 8. Not only it would add more variety to the tower options in rings, it would also fill the difficulty gaps such as this one in ring 2. And most importantly, would keep players entertained way more than tower revamps or monthly towers. We're talking about a whole last new tower point in an area that released more than half a decade ago. This worked pretty well with Tower of Noticeable Infuriation and Tower of Vivid Sections, and I believe it can work even better if it became a norm for the time being. Where would the towers come from question is not really my expertise, so I can't suggest much here other than reminding that monthly towers are right here. I don't really understand why past monthly towers can just become permanent, since at least the newer ones save your progress, but even for the older ones, I don't know, just rebeat them, it's not that hard. I don't think there are any technical limitations either, because towers have been moved between areas before, and towers have been renamed before, so that's fun. I didn't want to include this, but I have a speculation. Maybe monthly towers will indeed get replaced very soon, because have you seen these June monthly challenges? They just don't give a fuck about those anymore. So my suggestions from that video are still intact. Bringing back modifiers, but focusing more on its competitive side, so points, as well as automated daily challenges that would be based around those modifiers, and award more tickets that you would usually earn. Probably the shortest I could explain the second half of my previous video. By the way, go watch it. Under the same video, someone left a comment suggesting something that would honestly improve the towers replayability by a fuck ton. Permanent challenges. In short, there would be around 3 challenges in every tower that would change the way you play that tower, as well as essentially buffing it. One of the recent Steeple of Lobo challenges, where you have to go from top to bottom, would be a perfect contender for that, or as the commenter suggested, beating the perfect round of TCR, which by itself is probably a disastrous challenge, but it also helps raising the current EToH skill ceiling without having to resort to other games. As soon as I read that idea, I fell in love with it, but a huge issue arises when you realize there are 400 towers in the game. This would require a lot of work to implement for every single tower, and I would totally understand if the idea was denied without ever coming to fruition. But remember that the EToH current roadmap looks like this, and it's pretty boring, so instead these challenges can come in batches of like 5 towers per whatever to once again keep the players entertained while they're waiting for new area releases. So, what's the conclusion to this whole situation? Is EToH dying? Do EToH players do a poor job in handling the game? Not at all. I think EToH, or at least its community, is doing fine as it is right now. It has been sort of declining, but it's most likely due to the finals, so expect the visits to spike up in like June or July. That's usually how it works. But my point of the video is still that developers do really need a slight shake-up, because the direction they're currently going with may actually lead to some serious community problems in the long run. Maybe I am over-exaggerating and the game will be fine without my suggestions, or maybe you feel the same way as I do about this whole deal. I would love to hear your point of view in the comments. I've started writing the script a couple weeks ago, but most of the time I was just opening the document and saying, what the fuck do I even write? I'm really sorry if the video turned out messy in the end. I already started working my next video, which should hopefully be cleaner and come out sooner. And what you should do not to miss it. Alright, okay, bye.